off, I just want to say we didn't all come to be Mozarts or Rembrandts or Beethovens or someone terribly well known. We didn't all come to do that, did we? Some of us came to live quiet lives, to live quietly, just to live quiet but joyful lives. And one of the things I believe that we are all called to do, though, is to allow God to express through us. As I said a few minutes ago, God has no hands but ours. Okay, if that's so, then how can they express through me? How can they express through me? Sometimes we get a little bit too confused about what success is, and we feel like it ought to look a certain way. We ought to, especially those that grew up at a time when business was supposed to look a certain way. And I remember even in the 90s when I remember thinking at that time they were coming up with just in time, and the Japanese were finding ways to work more than we did in the United States. And they were even finding ways they could even sleep at work and sleep a few hours and then get up and go ahead and work. I remember thinking at the time, there's something wrong with this picture. There is something wrong with this. So I don't want us to get, when we're talking about our life's purpose, let's don't get it confused with success. Success is good, but we can be successful as, what was the little monk's name? Brother Lawrence, that washed dishes. And he learned practicing the patience or the presence of God when he was washing dishes. What was he doing? He was expressing himself. He was being his authentic self. He was serving humanity, making the world a better place, and it brought him great joy. It brought him great joy. There was a cobbler that said, oh, how I want to go to church and I want to go and worship like everyone else, but alas, I'm here always, night and day, repairing people's shoes so that they can work. And what he didn't realize was he was fulfilling his purpose by doing what he was doing. He was putting his love and his joy into serving humanity in that way. Meister Eckhart, a 14th century philosopher and mystic, said it this way: let God be God in you. Your purpose does not need to be linked to a specific career or to be doing a particular this or achieving or a certain that. It's simply about becoming your best you. And one of the things that we do in the process is to do it as ethically and lovingly as we can. I was recalling this morning a story that Unity Minister Eric Butterworth had told several times, and it was a man that came to his services regularly, and the man was a modern businessman, and he confessed to Eric that to be successful, he had to practice certain ways of business that didn't make him feel proud. To be successful, he had to pull the wool over a customer's eyes, they used to say, which is not ethical at all, is it? And we know that's not the way to be successful in life, and you're certainly not achieving your purpose. You may be paying the bills at that moment. That's a different thing. But I also remember he said to the man, he said, here's something I want you to remember when you go forth into your business practices. Whatever it is that you're selling, if you would not buy it yourself, then stop. If you're simply doing it for the money, find another way to afford to support yourself and your family. Stop. If it's not ethical and it's not godly, remember what we're God in action, then God wouldn't do that. Used to be a famous saying years ago, and that was to ask yourself the question, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? He wouldn't pull the wool over anybody's eyes, would he? He wouldn't choose a profession where he was cheating someone else. So let's not confuse success with our purpose. But let's talk about, how do we find our purpose then? The Persian poet Rumi said the same thing. He said it in a very gentle way. Feel yourself being drawn, quietly drawn by the deeper pull of what you truly love. Isn't that wonderful? There was a man in Michigan that he really, really thought he was going to be a famous singer, and he had a great voice, and he loved to sing. But he could not make it into the world of opera or stage or anything. Couldn't find a way. So he finally took a job as a bus driver to pay the bills, and lo and behold, he sang every single day, and his customers loved him. One day, this was early into his career, and for some reason he wasn't singing that day. He just thought, well, I'm just singing for myself, and the people don't want to hear me. But as the people were exiting the bus, they asked him if he was okay. They missed his singing. And he said, well, I thought I was just doing it for me. And they said, no, you're doing it for all of us. You're bringing us joy. You're bringing us joy. Joy and love are factors that we can say will draw us to our purpose. And it doesn't have to be huge. We can have a purpose of just bringing sunshine into other people's lives every day. We can do that by smiling. You just never know what a difference you might make in someone else's life with a smile, a kind word, asking about their sweet pet that they know they're worried about, and it's touched their heart. So many things we do, and we may not give it a second thought. We can make a difference in someone's life. Send them a card. Let them know you're still thinking about them. You know that they still have pain and loss. Let them know you care. So there was a businessman that was visiting down in Brazil. And there was a fisherman that had come in on his rowboat, and he had quite a few large fish. And the businessman says, my goodness, you caught quite a few nice fish there. You catch that much every day? He said, yes. Well, what are you going to do now? The businessman asked him. Well, I'm going to go home, I'm going to rest for a bit, have a little bit of lunch. This afternoon, I'll take a nap, then I'll have some supper with my family, and then I'll go down to the pub and have some drinks with my friends tonight. And so the businessman right away, he says, well, I know how I can improve your life. So he suggests, well, you could get a bigger boat, and the next thing you know, you could be bringing all sorts of fish in, and then you could buy bigger and bigger boats, and the next thing you know, you could go worldwide, and you could be shipping these fish all over the world, and so the fisherman's just leading him on gently, and then what will I do, he says, and then, he keeps guiding him on to all these successful things he's going to do. And then when he gets to the pinnacle, he's a multimillionaire. He says, well, then what am I going to do? He said, well, then, man, you can retire. You can come back to this beautiful paradise. You can take your little boat out every day and just fish for the few fish you need. You go home, visit with your family, have lunch with your wife, take a little nap. He says, man, I think that's what I'm doing now. And I don't need all that stress, but thank you. Thank you. So sometimes we get so in tuned to our purpose only being success. We need to bring passion into whatever we're doing, whatever it is. I remember when I was deciding to be a minister, and I just had so much passion for everything. I was studying everything I could get my hands on, not only unity theology, but world religions. I wanted to study about how to take care of the earth and be a better citizen of the earth. I was studying it all. And I had... We'd been living in Bay St. Louis a little bit, and of course I was ordained at that time, and I was still, though, heavily into caring for the earth and helping out with recycling, whatever I could do to recycle and do things. And I helped plan an event. It was the first event that we had really in Old Town Bay St. Louis. All the square had been, finally the wrecked buildings had been torn down, and we were going to have an Earth Day event. And I thought, well, this is wonderful. I love this. I love this. This is something I can do right now. I wasn't certain exactly what I could get into, but I needed something purpose and something to be passionate about. So I asked someone, well, how do I get permission to use that square? And they told me they thought that the city owned it. So I went to the city, and they said, well, sure, you can use that land. So I planned the event. We had the Pine Hill Nurseries came. They had to go back twice that day for the Earth Day event. First Earth Day event that was had in Bay St. Louis. And, food vendors, people that were promoting recycling. It was just thousands and thousands of people came that day. And I remember thinking about it later, and I thought, what in the world happened that all that energy came together at that time for that purpose? And that's exactly what it was. It was passion. I can still feel it now, planning that event and getting with a few others that thought it was incredibly important that we do this, because up to then, all we had was dilapidated buildings and hardly any cleanup at all. And I remembered the passion that went into that, and I think about it sometimes too, how much passion I and others were aligned with. And the funny thing is, somebody came to me that day during the festival, and they said, well, my goodness, no one has ever gotten permission from the county to use this land before for any sort of festival. I said, oh, the county owns this? I thought the city owned this. I asked the wrong person for entity for permission, but it happened anyway. And you know what they say, that nothing can prevent an idea whose time has come. Do you know that? Nothing. And that's what I'm saying about you too. You have a purpose in life, and it's aligned with the Unity's second and fifth principles. The 5 principles are: God is, I am, I think it, I pray it, I live it. That's the real quick version. So God is all-powerful. I can connect with that powerful entity. Jesus said I could. The Master said I could when he walked the earth. He said, you can do what I do. He said it. People didn't take him seriously. Then they built altars for him. He did not want that. He said, I've come to give a message, and that you can have the kingdom anytime you want. So anyway, that second principle is we each have that ability to connect with God, the Christ consciousness, we call it. And then it's not enough to know that. We live it. That's the 5th principle. We live it. We live our truth. And so if I am God in skin, I have certain talents. Now, I remember when I was young, I didn't think I had any talents. I'm comparing myself to everybody else in the world. I thought I had none. I didn't have a singing voice. I could play the piano, but not that well, sort of mediocre. I could do a lot of things mediocre. I got a degree in business. I didn't think it was all that special. I could do a few different things, and then gradually over my lifetime I began to realize, we're not as mediocre as we think we are. We each are given gifts and talents, and we may think that we're not able to serve God with those gifts and talents, but we are. You're here to discover your true self, not who your parents wanted you to be or anybody else. You're here to discover your true self. Someone asked Hemingway if he, on being a writer, and if he thought he should be, and Hemingway told him, if anything can stop you, then let it. How about that? You're not a writer. Barbara Streisand, someone asked her, should she pursue singing? And she told the woman, and she said, if you have to ask, then no. No. Alan Cohan asked a Unity minister, his name was Bob. He said, Bob, I've known you for several years. You're a good friend, and I've never really seen you upset or worried. I've seen your church go through several different times of ups and downs and losses and this, that, and the other. How in the world do you make your decisions? How do you keep your life on such an even keel? And Bob told him, he said, well, it's actually pretty simple. He said, when I'm trying to decide what my purpose is, what my decisions should be, what should I do now? He said, I go within and I think about the different scenarios and what they might bring, and the one that brings me the most joy is the one I've always go with. He said, it's never let me down. Never. So I would suggest that there is a way we can, let's say you're in an airplane and you're looking down at a congested road and there are cars driving different directions, and you can look at the car, you can look at a specific car, and you can see there's a roadblock up ahead, can't you? From that higher point of view, you can see that. And you see there's going to be a roadblock. I think we can do the same thing just by recognizing if we will follow our passion, if we will follow our joy, our feelings, it can lead us to our greatest clarity of purpose. Then we realize that if we're looking back on all the different things in our lives, we understand that we have grown through each and every experience. We don't hold on to woulda, shoulda, couldas and regret, do we? We know that we've grown through each and everything that's come our way. And then we also learn how to recognize guidance when it's coming to us now. And like the minister Bob said, joy is my compass. I allow myself to feel what I'm going to feel at the end of this, and know that it's going to be the best outcome. So if we could just remember that our surest guidance, especially when we get all torn up about what I should do now, what should be my purpose, what should I decide, just remember that your surest guidance will come from within, and the sooner you relax, let go, and let God, the sooner you will know what your next move should be and what your true purpose in life is. Now, I hope you'll all have a wonderful week. I hope you'll all stay healthy. Don't catch any flu bugs or anything else going around. And enjoy this beautiful weather. Thank you for your time.